Welcome to Enlightened Evolution,
I'm Cay.
and I'm Christina.
We're here to discuss the ebb and flow of our soul's healing and transformation through self-reflection, choosing intentionally, honoring thyself, and following your inner guide.
Thank you for joining this safe space with us. Welcome to this week's episode of Enlightened Evolution. Today we are talking about red flags in dating, things to look out for, and I think we'll start with our own red flags because we all have them. And it's nice to take accountability for them and kind of recognize in ourselves. I know in previous episodes, I've kind of shared some heavy things that I didn't like about previous partners. And it's important to note that I'm not perfect either.
Ditto.
Before we jump in, how are you today, Kay?
I'm wonderful today, well rested, and not enough coffee yet, but we're getting there. How are you?
I am pretty good. Yesterday was interesting. I there was highs and lows. I found a pistachio cake at my favorite little cupcakery,
Ooh.
and pistachio is my absolute favorite flavor, and it was everything I had hoped and dreamed for. It was moist. The Some people don't like that word. Um, the frosting was fluffy. It was so good. And then we came
Awesome.
home and organized our office, and we keep all of our like pet supplies in there, and I organized all of our pet medicine, and I saw all the medicine from my cat Ambrosius that
Mm,
recently passed away, and I bawled my eyes out. So
I'm sorry.
I was all
Yeah.
over the place yesterday.
Grief is certainly a process, and that's still pretty fresh.
Yes, it is. All right, so let's get into it. I will share some of my red flags. I think in our last episode, I mentioned that I have been married 3 times. So I totally understand that that would be a red flag for someone. I am hoping and praying that this is the last time I am married in my last relationship. So, if I was ever to date again, that would be something people would kind of be turned off by, I imagine. I also really haven't touched on my last marriage. You know, I was super dissatisfied. I was done for a long time. And in that marriage, I did cheat. And that's something I haven't mentioned on the podcast, but definitely something I'm not proud of, but it's my truth. So knowing that I have cheated before, I know there's a lot of people that say once a cheater, always a cheater. I don't believe that. I do believe in redemption, but I do believe that people have to take accountability, like we're doing right here, and really break down the reason why they did those things so they can understand and not do them again. I guess lying goes along with cheating as well. So I've definitely have lied in relationships before. And I think throughout, my mom was a narcissist. I've been in narcissistic relationships. So I think I've definitely had some narcissistic traits. I would not consider myself fully a narcissist, but I
Mhm.
definitely think I've behaved in those ways in relationships in the past. So I think those are my main red flags. So they're pretty heavy. Do you have any red flags you want to share?
Absolutely. So, I I am a single mom. I do have 2 kids. I've never been married, and both my children have different fathers. There's a lot of men that would probably say, I mean, men or women, depending on what you prefer. I'm heterosexual, I date men. They would probably think like, "Oh, that's a red flag." In the past, I've never had trouble finding someone, and they've never but I've had them say made comments about it for sure, so I know that's a red flag. I know that in the past, especially in this last relationship that I've spoke of more recently and shared quite a bit about, in the beginning of that relationship, I take full accountability for not being honest with him about certain things that were important for him to know. And we could argue all day about whether or not it's healthy for the way he went about learning these things about me. But at the end of the day, he asked me certain questions up front. And what I should have done instead of lying about them or withholding information or mm, pussyfooting around the truth, basically, I I just lied. And what I should have done is said, "I'm not comfortable with discussing these things yet with you. This is a brand new relationship." So set that boundary. Instead of lying, I would say set that boundary and just say, you don't gotta lie about it, and you don't owe anybody any information about your past if you don't feel vulnerable enough to share that yet. And I should have just said, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable talking about this right now. It's a sensitive subject for me, and maybe sometime down the road when we are, grow closer and I have more of a trust for you that my secrets are safe with you, then I'll continue, sharing more things." So I think that is I was pretty dishonest, and if I could go back, that's something I definitely would have changed about myself. And when I feel another red flag about myself when I'm in a relationship and I feel unseen and unheard, or I know somebody's gaslighting me or intentionally trying to, how you just were with someone and they're just intentionally trying to misunderstand you and try to switch around your mindset and your perspective and tell you your feelings are wrong, I get very angry and defensive. And in those moments, instead of getting angry and defensive, just take a step back, take a deep breath, and just realize that this person is committed to misunderstanding you and just walk away gracefully. Take a step back. You don't owe it to anybody to try to stay and work things out and make them understand. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to make people see you. So, I think that
Definitely.
those are my biggest ones for sure.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable.
Yeah, and
Those
thank
aren't
you.
easy to share.
No, it's not. But it's the truth and none of us are perfect. I feel like we all got some dirt on us. We're all human and none of us need to feel ashamed or guilty you know, or judged by anybody for our human experience. I think we just need to accept our faults and gain wisdom from it and just try to be better.
Definitely. And I'd like to mention, some of these things we might list as red flags could be pink to other people.
Hmm.
You decide what's important to you. And I think my list of red flags has grown and evolved over the years. I think as we experience things in relationships, we're like, oh, I don't want that again. Add
Right.
that to the list.
Right.
So it really does come from trial and error. So don't feel like maybe you embody one of these things and maybe it's something you need to work on, or maybe it's something you overlooked in starting a relationship with someone. We live and we learn.
Yes, we do.
So I have a list here, and maybe I'll just start talking about them and let me know if this is something on your list and
Yeah,
if
for
you've had
sure.
experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One that is new to my list is lack of emotional intelligence. So if I notice someone acting out of anger, out of jealousy, being passive aggressive, that's an ick for me. That's a turn off for
Absolutely.
sure.
I I put gets ridiculously jealous and anxious. And I added especially about your past. I had somebody tell me they have retrograde jealousy. Okay.
What does that mean?
It means that you're jealous about people that your partner has been with in the past. And let me tell you, it's the most you can't help that. Everybody needs to take accountability and be very intentional in their own healing process. And if you are somebody that is extremely jealous about somebody's past, you obsess over it, you wonder if they love you like they love these other people. It is exhausting. You
Mm.
cannot help these people. You will never make these people feel secure. And so when you're there with the jealousy, yeah, I can't do the jealousy either.
And I
Mm-mm.
will admit, I think that's another red. As I'm going through these, I'm probably going to add them to my list as well.
Yeah.
I am healing from having a anxious attachment style. That was my attachment style the majority of my dating life. I've only recently, before I met my husband, recognized it and started to move away from it. But
Mhm.
I will say when I was deep in that attachment style, I was a very jealous person as well, and I acted
Oh,
wildly so.
definitely. Definitely. And what we give out is what we'll give back, right? And same as our partner. So when this person I was with started to be very jealous of my past and people in my current life, I became that way too. And it's like, okay, well, what do I need to look at from the other side of the spectrum with your life? And it just was a back and forth thing, and it eventually ended terribly. So if you feel the need to be jealous of your partner, look at yourself. Do you have anything that supports these anxieties that you have about them, or these red flags that you are you making them up in your mind, or is there actually behavior that they're doing? I think that your intuition tells you a whole lot when you meet somebody. How you do you feel at ease with them? Do you just feel like comfortable talking to them, comfortable sharing your thoughts? Do they listen to you intently? Are they curious about you? Do they ask you questions? Or do you just feel like this rigidness, like what does your intuition tell you when you're with this person? I think that's a big red flag when your intuition is off. And so many times I've ignored my intuition because we're compassionate and we're loving and we are looking for love and we do want to be connected to people and we do want to give them the benefit of the doubt and forgive them. And but oh, if I would have followed my intuition my whole life, I don't know where I'd be.
Right? And I have that actually in our upcoming episode. If you've been in a
Mhm.
narcissistic relationship, it can be hard to trust your intuition because if you've been gaslit into being told, like, no, that's wrong, what you're feeling is wrong, you're incorrect in your thinking, if that's been so ingrained in you, it becomes extremely hard to trust your intuition. And there are exercises out there. I was actually just searching on my phone. I was trying to find this quote that helps you to kind of determine the difference between your intuition and your anxiety. I can't remember it fully, but I know like thoughts from your anxiety will be like started with what if? What if this happens?
Yeah.
What if they're doing this? And I wish I could find what it how it's differently worded when it's your actual intuition. We'll come back to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that our kindness and compassion does cloud our judgment, and so don't be afraid to hurt their feelings or people please when you set your boundaries with them. Don't be afraid to be rejected by them if you speak up and say something that makes you uncomfortable that they're doing, because and don't be afraid of the conflict. A lot of us have experienced abuse and narcissistic relationships, and so moving forward, when we meet new people that, have these same behaviors, it feels familiar. We even feel comfortable in it. And so we need to be very mindful that we do kind of create our own patterns with the people in these abusive relationships. So don't be afraid of the conflict. Don't be afraid of upsetting them. Oftentimes when we come out of abusive relationships and enter into new relationships, we're still afraid to speak up because we want to avoid the conflict.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really where the self-love comes in because you have to
Mhm.
be willing to walk away if it's not for you.
Yeah, and please do not abandon yourself. Sometimes things are exactly as that they seem, and there's no deeper meaning to what's obvious.
Yeah. Have you ever had I have a note here, either a previous partner reach out to you of someone you're dating, or I've had someone's mother warn me about them.
Ooh. I I don't think so. Not a previous partner, but after this last relationship ended, someone that it was really random and off the wall, and somebody said to me, "I didn't wanna say anything when you were in this relationship with this person, but we know that the last time the reason that they got divorced last time was basically because of how he was obsessive and treated her, and so he exhibited that same behavior, exact same behavior with me when the relationship ended. So I didn't get a warning sign in the beginning. Would I have listened? Would it have been nice? I probably would have given him the benefit of the doubt and, believe that people can change, because I was on a self-healing journey and changing and leaving my past behaviors behind. So I probably still would have been in the same spot I am now. Did
Yeah,
you
and
did you
that's
listen to it? Did you listen to his
no,
mother?
I had an ex who wanted me, like, very early in the relationship to get to know his mother, and so I, like, would go and have lunch with her, and he was very now him and I had been friends a very long time and had never dated, and then we dated, and he was instantly talking about, like, wanting to marry me,
I got that on my
and
list too.
yes, and his mom was like, "I just want you to know that he tends to jump into things without thinking about it," and I was like, it didn't if someone's mother, their own mother is warning you about them, take some consideration, girl, because I got my heart broke in that
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I've also had women, reach out to me, someone that they and, the one specifically I can think about, of course, this was the abusive first husband. "Oh, she's crazy. She's just saying that because she doesn't want us to be together. Like, don't listen to her. Listen to her." Anytime someone comes to you as a woman, listen to them.
I see, I do think that you should listen to them, but also it's hard sometimes. I gotta play the devil's advocate with this one, because are they a narcissist too? And is this a form of triangulation? Are they jealous of your new relationship? Are they lying? Are they trying to get you broken up? So that's why I think it's so crucial to really take the time to know somebody and see these red flags for yourself. Now, a month down the road, or she starts exhibiting these same red flags. It's like, okay, they were right. Sometimes, you know, note it for sure. I definitely think you should listen, and I think that you should note it. But some things we're gonna have to learn on our own, because
Yes,
there is some people that lie out there now. I think it
that
all
is
depends
true.
on, yeah, it depends on the context that they say to you, like, "Hey, I'm looking out. This is what I experienced with him. Here's my evidence. Like, here's my police report," or something. Like, yeah, run for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely will always believe survivors. So, like, if someone's telling
Mhm.
me he
Yeah.
hit me, I'm gonna believe you. Whether it's the truth or not, I'm gonna believe you.
Yes.
But I do get that people lie.
Yeah, they do. Not to take away from what happened to you. I just think there's always a level of, is this person looking out for you sincerely, or are they just trying to sabotage what you have?
Oh,
Are
yeah,
they the
definitely.
crazy one? Which one, who was crazy,
Right.
you know?
It's possible. Turns out this guy was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, he is he's married for the 3rd time as well. His 2nd wife, her and I have become friends. That's a whole 'nother Jerry Springer story that we can share on another day. Um, but she reached out to the now 3rd wife and said, like, he was abusive to both of us. He put her in the hospital, like, all these things. And the new wife, and of course, he's telling the new wife, like, "Oh, don't listen to them. They're both crazy. 2 of them are
Mhm.
crazy."
Oh, yeah, she should listen.
Mm.
Mm. Well, I
And
hope
they're
she's
they're
okay.
yeah, I hope she is too. I really do.
Mhm.
That's no fun. I do believe people can change, and
I do, because
I hope that for
I know
him.
that I've changed, and
Yeah.
I know how much you've changed, and how much our values have evolved, and how much more conscious we are now, and so, I do believe that people can change, but some things, it's hard to excuse them.
Yeah. I think I would say if you already had your intuition peeping up about this person and then someone comes to you with the same kind of
Yes, I love that, confirming
maybe
what you
trust it.
thought. Mhm,
Yeah.
yes. I think that another warning sign, tell me if you have this on your list at the beginning of a relationship, You know, I do want to add everyone's comfort level is going to be a little bit different on how soon you decide to share yourself with them physically. And I think that we've said it before, having sex clouds your judgment. So let's say you're dating for a month or two and you still, haven't really, feel comfortable sharing yourself like that yet. And they say, "Hey, do you want to come back to my place instead of going out for a date?" And you're like, "No, not yet. Let's go here, do this." Or, you decline going back to their house. And then after that, they kind of pull back a little bit or they stop being as consistent with you and they realize, they're not going to get what they want from you physically. I think that's a big red flag. And
Yeah,
obviously don't just
definitely.
give it to them to feel accepted. But
Mm-mm.
I think that's a big one. I think something I've experienced personally when they ask you questions early on in the relationship, it's hard to know if they're asking you these questions to get to know you, to be curious about you sincerely, to like dive deep in your soul to know like what you've been through, what you need, or are they asking you questions to later use things against you
Yeah.
because what you've said to them like hurts their ego and their own insecurities. That's happened to me. A lot of people meet on dating apps these days.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's fine. However way you wanna meet somebody. But I think after you do get to know them and you guys exchange social media accounts, how do they behave on social media is a big indicator. Do they post, like, tasteless, degrading memes, or is it more like pictures of their family and, like, inspirational quotes or something? I think that would be a warning sign if they're acting sweet and kind and nurturing to you in one way, but they're posting the most ridiculous things on social media, like, who are you?
Yes. It's funny because I post a lot on social media, but I love a partner that doesn't post at all on social and I
Yeah,
think that's just because I was burned in a previous relationship with
mhm.
that. But, yeah, my husband rarely posts on social media, and I love it.
Yeah. I gosh, I don't have I barely have any social media. I made a new TikTok and just kinda putting some stuff out there, but like I said, in that past relationship, another red flag about the social media, if they want you to delete your social media, if they're not comfortable with you having social media, because they're insecure and they don't have the ability to trust you. I can definitely see be respectful once you get to a certain point in your relationship. Have you deleted your exes? Just certain things are more respectful when you're in a relationship of how you conduct yourself with social media.
Mhm. Yeah,
But that's
definitely.
something to be very mindful of how much, the control they try to have over your personal life. So I've been like, isolated from the world with no social media and just getting back into it. So I do like to post some stuff, but I do agree with you. I like having a partner that's a little low key and not really trying to be on social media every single day for attention.
Mhm. It's like a catch-22 for me, like, I mainly post on social media to, like, inspire others and
Mhm, yes.
help others heal, but I very much do not wanna be perceived by anyone,
Yeah.
and I think that was a shared thing between you and I starting this podcast, like, I don't want anyone to perceive me at all,
Mhm.
but I also know that we have so much to share, and I know that
Yeah.
I have gained so much by others sharing, so that's why we're here.
Yes, absolutely. We just touched on this I think we just touched on this a little bit. The love bombing, I think you said. I
Yes.
have things that indicate love bombing specifically because whew, I've been love bombed by somebody with
Same.
quite a bit of money, and it's very hard to know, like, are you being loved bombed when you're it's hard to know when you're really interested in somebody and you admire them, you kinda don't really realize they're love bombing you because you enjoy the attention from them, so there's this fine line. I think too much communication too soon is a big indicator, moving forward in a future relationship, I think maybe one text a day, hi a day, I'm thinking about you, maybe one date a week. I'm not going to be available to you every hour of every day when I first meet you, and I've made that mistake before in the past, and I was that person as well, and it's not healthy. I think that you need to meet when you meet people and you're getting to know them, I think you need to get to know them in person, hear the intonation in their voice, feel their sincerity. Getting to know somebody through text messaging is a horrible idea. And
Yeah,
I did that, and the relationship was terrible. I think that wanting to see each other too soon, like I just said, more than once a week, kind of reserve yourself a little bit, you know? And then how does this person prioritize you when you do first meet them? Are they eager to see you once a week? Are they coming up with dates for you guys to go on? Or is it like you don't hear for a few days and then they, message you like every date every 3 weeks? Like, no. Too much expensive gifts too soon. I think the last relationship, I think he bought me like a $2,000-$3,000 camera for Christmas. Like, and I've only known him for 2 months. Lavish trips, much too soon. En- Engaged by 3-4 months. So it's we all want to be loved and adored, but when it's too much too soon, you do not know this person whatsoever, and their generosity clouds your judgment, and there's a price to pay.
definitely. And I feel like I was gassing you up at the beginning of that relationship too, because I do feel like you deserve all those things.
I do.
But and you do, but within reason, right? And so like when you were
Mhm.
telling me all the things he was doing for you, I was like, "Yes, you deserve all of this." And I didn't really think of like, "Oh, this is a lot very soon."
Yeah, and it came along with saying, "I love you," much too soon. "I knew I was gonna marry you the moment I saw you. I can see us having children together. I wanna be with you forever. I can't imagine my life without you." And now here we are engaged and lasted what, like a year, less than a year and a half, and completely I'm like, "What? Where am I at now?" Picking myself back up off the floor.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on well, first I want to touch on some kind of things that are obvious. They're definitely red flags for me. Someone that is racist makes
Oh
racist, and I'm
yeah.
talking not even
Mhm.
blatantly racist, but those little implicit bias that come out. That's a no for me. Someone who's homophobic, anti women's rights, all of those types of things. I want someone who cares about humanity. So if those types of
Absolutely.
slips come out, I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's important to list some of the attributes of a narcissist, things to look out for. So we all, I think at this point, narcissist has been such a buzzword. We know the main thing that narcissists lack is empathy.
Mhm.
So do you see them interact with and that's you said like trying to build a relationship through text, you're not really getting to know that person. I need to see how they interact with the wait staff, how they interact with their family, their friends,
I put all
strangers
that
out in
down too.
public.
Mhm.
Yep. If they're arrogant, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. And if they're quick to blame others for why things have gone wrong, like that was something in the beginning of my relationship with my husband, like we kind of did this survey of like, okay, what are the things that you've done wrong in the past, in relationships and things, and I asked those questions because I wanted to see if he was going to take accountability, and he fully did. Like, why did your last relationship not work out? He took full accountability for that. If someone is constantly blaming other people for the reason why their relationships didn't work out or whatever didn't work out, they're probably the issue.
Yeah, I added that as well. Like, how were they raised? If they did have a lot of active, if they are they actively healing from their trauma? Do they recognize it, or do they play, are they in a victim mindset? Do they play the blame game? I'm this way because of everybody else that's impacted my life, and always making excuses for their behavior and how they treat you because of how others have treated them.
Definitely. you kind of mentioned a little bit if they have a lack of boundaries. So if they're wanting to be with you all the time, texting you constantly. I dated someone and I didn't even hindsight is 2020, but like
Mhm.
we would lay on FaceTime all night long while we slept. Like we
Ugh.
were on the phone with each other
Mhm.
constantly and that was so unhealthy. Like what?
Yeah, I
Complete lack of boundaries.
yeah, absolutely. I gave this person full access to all of my passwords, to my Ring camera, to monitor my home security system, and they completely took advantage of it, downloaded the past 10 years of my iCloud, 5, 10 years of my iCloud, and read through all my messages with every single person on every single social media account and judge me and shame me for the last 5, 10 years of my life. And it was, I mean, they could work for some spyware company. I have no idea. But it was
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was, oh my gosh, it was so traumatic, and it's something that I'm gonna have to process and still deal with in future relationships for sure. So the lack of boundaries and lack of trust, like being on FaceTime all night.
Mhm.
No. Earlier you mentioned the arrogance versus confidence. Well, how you interact with, like, the wait staff and children and pets, and how they just interact with the world, the people and places you go, and they don't even know these people. Do they have, like, this effortless, gentle, warmth about them? I think that observe them. Do they seem, because you said, like, the arrogance thing, but there's also an opposite to that. Do they seem like they're on high alert and there's always a threat? How do they how do you observe them feeling, or how do they feel after you interact with someone from the opposite sex, whether it be a waiter? I remember I was at a concert one time and this man came up to me and it was just a conversation. This girl was passed out drunk on the lawn, and it was a conversation about him being concerned for her, and the nurse and mother and me, I was also concerned for her. And it was like a 2 minute not even conversation, and the person I was with was like, you guys wanted to sleep with each other. And it's like, that's not even what it was. Does he make eye contact with other people? Does he or she make eye contact with other people? And when you introduce him to your family and your friends, does he seem just relaxed and comfortable to be there? Is he happy to be there? Is he, gracious for the meal that was provided, or try to make an effort to connect with people that are important to you, that you love?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we talked in our last episode about when someone tries to pull you away from your friends and your family.
Mhm.
An ex of mine just started refusing to go out to dinner with friends and all these any kind of social event. Luckily, it wasn't I don't think it was so much him trying to isolate me from them because I was like, "Oh, well, I'm still gonna go."
Good for you.
There was
See,
a
I wouldn't
point
have. Good for you.
There was a point when my coworkers didn't even know that I was married. Like, I wore a ring and everything, but they would be like, "Your husband doesn't come to anything with you." Or we'd be hanging out, go out to dinner after work or something, and I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, my husband, blah, blah, blah." And they'd be like, "You're married?" So that in itself was a red flag. And it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, you have to do everything together because that's not it either. And that is more I guess maybe it's more of an incompatibility for me, but if we can't be social together, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because I want my partner to come and share my family and friends with me and enjoy to be there sincerely, like I would with his family and friends. I think that when I think another thing you need to look out for when you're going to meet his friends and family, are they mature, joyful, content, goal driven, like successful, healthy people? Or are they kind of a rough crowd? We kind of tend to be, you know, what's that saying? I don't know, whoever you're
You
surrounded
are
with.
who you hang with?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are who you hang out with. And not to say that we can choose our family and, we can accept the
Right.
way that they are, but I guess so that maybe that would be like a more of a friends thing, but I would pay attention to that. Like, does he find their behavior acceptable? Because some you can't choose your family and you still love them and you still want to go see them, whatever. But does he think that their behavior is acceptable if you know it's like, oh,
Right.
this person
And
is,
there could be
whatever.
that like, I have a lot of long-term friends too that,
Mhm.
we may have aligned when we were in high school, but we don't so much anymore, but I still feel they're important to
Yeah.
introduce or something, but you still have that conversation of like, "Hey, our lives aren't really aligned anymore." You might tell your partner, like,
Yeah.
"That's not what I vibe with, but I still love that person."
Yeah, for sure. I think look out for, like, if you're dating someone that's a single parent, how active are they in their children's lives? How do they speak about their children or post on social media about their children? How do they support their children? I think that's really important to look out for. If you're with someone that has a 10-year-old kid that they don't even see, why haven't you taken that, actions to involve the court so you can see them? Are they financially stable and established, or do they struggle? Because I've certainly we've talked about this, not taking care of nobody.
Mm-mm.
And this kinda, I guess, falls in the same subject as intuition, but do you feel safe in this person's energy? If you're a woman, can you just lean back in your feminine energy, or do you feel like you have to be in high alert? A lot of us, I think in this day and age as women, we have to I mean, we can be the breadwinners and we can be independent, and we don't necessarily always get the chance to lean back in our feminine energy because we can fulfill, you know, a lot of similar roles that a man can. But when you're with somebody, are they a gentleman, and do they make you feel safe?
Definitely. I think we've touched on all of my lists. Do you have any others?
I'm looking through real quick. I think that's it. Oh, actually, yes. Oh, you see that sun coming in there? That's awfully bright.
Yeah.
So this one happened to me so much, and I will start doing this as well when I feel frustrated and somebody is doing this to me. If you express your feelings to them and they completely divert, they don't acknowledge your feelings, they completely divert into something that bothers them about you. Like, you brought it up first, like, "Hey, this bothers me." It doesn't matter that that bothers you because this that you do actually bothers me, and what you're doing is on a higher caliber of importance to my feelings than your feelings, actually. That happened to me every single time in my last relationship. I I would say that's 90% of the reason why it failed. I could have forgiven so many things, but I can't be in a relationship where I'm saying, "Hey, this bothers me," and then you flip-flop it back on me. No, I'm actually the problem. This is
That's
like I'm getting triggered even thinking about it because I think
mm,
this is such a red flag. Early on in a
yes.
relationship, start setting boundaries. Start letting them know your expectations, how you feel, and if they choose conflict instead of active listening and empathy, I would run.
Definitely. All right. Well, we thank you all for listening today, and we hope you found something to take away from this, things to look out for in your own relationships. And we hope that you have a great week.
Yes.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste.